Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is NASA's Thread. If you're seeing this channel for the first time, thank you for stopping by. If you're a returning subscriber, you are the real MVP. Thank you for always coming back. So today on the channel, I'll be showing you how I made this ball gown. Okay, it's actually for a 5-year-old. So if it's something you're interested in, keep watching, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get right into this. So for this, I'll be using 2 yards of doll face, 12 yards of medium net. Okay, it's not so hard and it's not so soft. All right, this is what we'll be working with, and also we'll be using this Mikado fabric, which will serve for our bowl. And you'll be needing lining for to line your fabric, and then crinoline and paper stay. So the next thing we want to do is to fold our fabric into two. So we want to cut the half length for this. So I just went ahead to fold my fabric into two, and then I'm going to make a line at the top to serve as my starting line. All right, so from that end, that's from my starting line, I'm going to mark the half length of this. So the length I need for this is 12 inches, but I'll be adding half of an inch to my 12 inches, making it 12.5 inches. And I'll rule a line at that point in order to indicate it. Okay, then on my starting line, I'll go ahead and mark half of my shoulder measurement. Okay, half of the shoulder measurement I'm working on, all right, which is 5.5 inches, but I added half of an inch for that, making it 6. Then on that point, I'm going down by half of an inch for my shoulder slant. Okay, then from the shoulder slant point, I'm going to mark my armhole length. So I'm just using the shoulder measurement divided by 2 for the armhole length. Now remember I said the shoulder is 11 inches. Okay, divided by 2 is 5.5 inches. So I just marked that down also as my arm length, and I connected this together in a straight line. All right, then the next thing we want to get is the width of our neckline. So you can decide what you want for this. Now it shouldn't be too wide because this is for a child. For me, I used 2.5 inches for my neck width, and then the depth I also used 2.5 inches. So I just used 2.5 inches to 2.5 inches for this. Now because it's for a child, the neck should not be too wide, okay, so that it is comfortable and it is pretty on the body. So we have that down. Now the next thing we want to do is to take the chest circumference measurement. I'm working with a chest circumference measurement of 25 inches. So I'll go ahead and divide that by 4, sorry, and I'll mark it down. Then I'm going to add 1.5 inches to that, which will serve as my allowance. All right, then the next thing I want to do is that on my armhole line, I'll take the measurement I have there and I'll divide it by 2, okay, and mark it down. Get the midpoint of that point, mark it down. Then I'm going with my free hand to just curve that together in order to give me my armhole curve. So I just use my free hand to curve that ends together. Then we'll go over to the waist area, and then we're going to take quarter of our waist measurement. So you're dividing the circumference of your waist by 4, and then you mark it down, and then add whatever seam allowance you're working with. Remember I said I'm using 1.5, so I just mark that down. I'm going to connect the points I made together with my rule. So this is what we have for the front. You can see how this looks like. We'll go ahead and cut it out. So while cutting this, I noticed I didn't slant the shoulder. Okay, that's the half inch we came down by. I decided to do that later. Just marked it down, used my rule to slant it into the shoulder point, and followed that curve while I was cutting. So to cut out the back part of this, we are also going to fold in another piece. Now while folding for the back, ensure you also add your zip allowance to this. Okay, whatever zip allowance you want to use for this project, just ensure you add that to it, at least 1 inch of zipper allowance to this. Okay, so for me, I want to use a zip allowance of 1.5 inches. I just went ahead to mark my 1.5 inches at various points. So you can use 1 inch, you can use 1.5 inches. Okay, but I think 1.5 inches is okay enough. It should not be more than that. Then I just went in with my rule to connect the points I made together. Then I'm going to bring in my front piece and then place it after the line. So you can see how I'm placing this. So ensure you place this after your zip allowance line, okay? Don't make the mistake of placing this before your zip allowance line. So place it after your zip allowance line. Ensure it is properly placed. You can go ahead to pin it down if it's not staying, and then cut out the bottom, the sides, the armhole area. Now while cutting out the sides, ensure you don't cut out your zip allowance, okay? Cut out the shoulders, but leave your neckline for the back, okay? So we're going to, this is what it looks like, right? This is what both our piece looks like. So we'll just make a mark to indicate neck width, all right, for the back part. And I just went ahead again with my tape to confirm that I had exactly 2.5 inches like I marked in front. Okay, now the back has a deep V at the back. So from the bottom of this, you're going to determine how deep you want the neckline of the back to be. You can decide for it to be down or you decide for it to be upwards. So in this case, I was thinking how I wanted this to be, but I went ahead to mark 4 inches. So I just went up from the bottom of this by 4 inches and made a mark there. And I'm using my straight rule to connect it together. All right, so this is what we have. Now you can see we have like an L shape going inwards. All right, you can decide to have the other ends of it curved instead, but I wanted mine to have this L shape. You can decide to have yours curved or you can decide to leave it this way. I just went ahead to cut out the part I will not be needing. So this is what we have for the back. All right, this is both our front and back piece. So the next we want to cut out is the peplum of this. Just went ahead to fold the fabric into two, and I'm going to fold again into two, making that four, ensuring I have one part of this closed. Okay, it's more like cutting a fillet. So we want to cut out a fillet. This is it. So you should have two ends of this closed. This is what it looks like. All right, so I'll go ahead and I went ahead to line at the bottom of this, and from that line I'm going to determine the length I want this peplum to be. So I'll be marking 8 inches firstly for my length. Then I'm going to measure the what I have remaining from the top down to that end, and I'll measure that round. So what I had remaining was 6 inches. I decided to use 6 inches for the radius of my peplum. Okay, and I just marked it down round and I'm connecting together. Now the reason for this is because we'll be pleating this around the waistline of the gown, so that's why you need more of this instead of less, so that you can pleat this out in order to have the desired volume, okay, the desired look it needs to be. And I went ahead to measure 8 inches round this for the length. Now remember, whatever length you want to use, ensure to add allowances to that, because you'll be turning this over with the lining at the bottom, okay, and you also be attaching this to something at the top part of this, so ensure to add allowances to that. So after marking it down, I just went ahead to cut it out. So this is what we have for our peplum. This is what it looks like. I'm just making marks on this to indicate the front from the back, and I'm going to split open the ends up, right? So for our piece, that's the half length, I went ahead to cut out a lining piece. So I'm using same doll face for my lining. I went ahead to cut it out and I made marks to indicate the wrong side from the right side. Okay, so what I'll do is to join this. I want this to be an inseam finishing, okay, to have like a clean inside. So I'm going to place my piece right side to right side of fabric to right side of fabric, placing the back and front together. And I'm going to use the allowance I added for this. Remember, I used an allowance of 1.5 inches. I will use that to stitch down the sides, okay, of my piece. I'll repeat the same process also for my other piece, okay. I'll place them together. That's for my lining piece. Place them right side to right side. Then I'll stitch it down by 1.5 inch on both sides. So the next we want to get is the base for our our gathers or our net in this case. So to get your base, just go ahead and fold in another fabric into 4. Then to get the radius of this, divide the waist circumference you're working with by 6.28. Now, when I did that division, I had 3.8 inches, sorry. So add at least 1 inch to that. So if you have 3.8 inches like I did, you should add 1 inch to that. You have 4.8 inches instead. So that should be the radius of the waist. That's the radius for the waist of your net base. Now, you don't just mark 4 and 4.8 inches, okay? So you're going to mark what you can divide what you have 4.8 inches by 2, and then mark it down around there. Take the measurement you have if you have 4.8 inches, okay? That is how to get it. You can see what I'm doing. I took the measurement the first time. I didn't get that. It didn't come out as it should be. And I decided to add half of an inch to the first measurement I took. All right. So that's just what I did later on. So you measure it, you divide what you have by 2 in firstly, take it down, take your tape round out to see if you have that radius you're looking for. If not, you come down, add half of an inch to that also, and then check it out. I'm sure you get the radius. All right. So I just came down by half of an inch and I marked it again for my radius. And then I took the measurement I had around that and I got exactly what I needed for this. All right. So the next thing we want to determine is the length of the base. Now, to get the length of the base, minus the full length from your half length. Now, the full length I'm working with for this project is 27 inches. Remember, I said the half length is 12 inches. So 27 minus 12, I have 15. But I'll not be using 15 inches. I decided to use 12 inches also for the base of this. So instead of 15 inches, I'm cutting out 12 inches. This is because I want my net to extend more than the base. So I just went round and marked 12 inches round this, which will serve as the length of my base. And I'm connecting this together with a curve. All right, so this is what we have. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out. Like I said, subtract whatever, subtract at least 2 to 3 inches from your initial base length. Okay, so if you have 27 inches like me, minus 12, 15 inches, subtract 2 to 3 inches, depending on how long you want your base to be. So I went ahead to just open one end of this. All right, so this is what we have for our base. Now, to get the points where we're going to stitch our net to, right, the first thing you want to do, what I'll do is that from the waist, I'll come down by 2 inches from the waist. Now, I did this because I took the measurement I had. Remember, I said it was 12 inches. Okay, 12 inches is the length of my base. So I just came down by 2 inches from the waist. Okay, that's from the top part of this. I came down by 2 inches and I made a mark there at my 2 inches point. Now I'll take the measurement I have left, which is 10 inches, and I'll divide that by 2. All right, so 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I went ahead to mark 5 inches. Then what I'll do is to mark 2 inches round and then 5 inches round. So just watch how I'm going to mark this. So placing your tape at the starting point, you mark 2 inches round. Okay, then placing your tape from the 2 inches point, you mark 5 inches round. It totally depends on what length you're using for your base. Okay, it totally depends on that. So I just mark that round and I'll flip it after connecting together on this end. I'll flip it to the other end and then repeat the same process. 2 inches from the beginning, okay, and then 5 inches from 2 inches. All right, so I hope you understand that properly. This is just how to mark it down, so that while you're stitching this around you're stitching your net around this, it works perfectly. It is easier, it is quicker, you're not confused, you're not burdened while you're doing this. So I just marked it round to make my work easier and perfect. So if I open this up, okay, you can see how we have this. They are all meeting perfectly like they should. Okay, this is what we have. This is what the base of our net looks like. This is what it should look like. All right, they should be meeting perfectly. So the next we want to cut out is the net. Now remember I said I have 12 yards of net. I'll be using the entire 12 yards of this net for this project. So I've gone ahead to fold my net. Okay, I've gone ahead to fold my net, fold it as much as I can. Now another thing you can use to determine the length, the volume of net you need, is to take the measurement you have around your circle, divide that, sorry, multiply that by 2, multiply that by 2.5, multiply that by 3 inches. It simply depends on how much volume you want. Okay, that will help you to determine the yardage of net to get while you're making this kind of dress. All right, for me, I already got my 12 yards net, and I folded them together. So after folding, I folded this to have about 14 piece of this. That's how I folded this. All right, so I'll fold them again, ensuring they're equal. Then I'm going to trim out the top part in order to ensure that the ends are equal, like they are meeting at the proper place. I just went ahead with my scissors to trim off the rough parts at the top. Right, so for the length of this, now I want to double my net. Now remember, the length of the net is 60 inches, so it's 60 inches in length, but I want to double mine. What I need for the remaining part of my dress is 15 inches. Remember, 27 minus 12, I have 15 inches. So it is 15 inches I need left. So, but instead of cutting 15 inches, I'm going to cut out 30 inches. Now, I'll be cutting out two parts of 30 inches. One for my first gathers and the second for my second gathers, right? So I'm going to place this down, mark 30 inches, and then I'll cut this out. Now, the reason why I'm using 30 inches instead of 15 is because I want to fold this up into two. It's going to give it more volume. It's going to give it a better look, right? So I just marked 30 inches and I went in with my scissors to cut it out. So what I'll do is to also cut another 30 inches, which will be for my other piece. So you can see this is what we have after I did that. All right, so I'm going to fold this into two. Then I'll run a loose stitch on them. So you need to fold this to be equal at the top. Run loose stitches on them and go ahead and attach them to your base. So this is what it looks like. So I've done my loose stitches on this, I've gathered it, and then I've attached it to my base. So you can see how this looks. Okay, folding this into two gives it more volume, and because we made marks on this earlier, it is easier to attach to this. We don't have to struggle while we're attaching this to the base. You can see how this looks. You can see how the inside looks like. It looks so neat and it looks so clean. This is what yours should look like. You can see how this looks. Okay, this is coming in nicely already. So I went ahead to cut out a lining piece for my peplum, and I ironed my paper stay to it. You can see this is what it looks like. So what I want to do is to place the front part of my lining to the front part of my main piece. I'm going to place both of them together. Then I'll mark 1.5 inches from that point inwards. So I used 1.5 inches inwards from that point. Remember, that is the zip allowance I have at my half length. So I went ahead to mark 1.5 inches. From that point, I'll place in my crinoline at that point, and then I will stitch it round this. So go ahead and do that for yours. Just place your crinoline around that and then stitch it down. So I've gone ahead to join my piece together. That's for the half length. You can see this is it. and this is the other piece after I've joined it together. So what I did for the back was to add loops. Okay, I just used my bias, folded that, and then added that to one part of the back piece. So I used about 8 of them, 4 for each side. So I'll go ahead and place them together again, right side facing right side, and I'm going to stitch the necklines of the back and also of the front. So I've attached my crinoline to my peplum like I said. So this is what it looks like from the inside. Okay, then what I'll do next is to flip this over towards the lining. So you're going to move your crinoline towards the lining part. Give this a very good press. Okay, make sure you iron this very well, and then after which we'll bring in our hemming gum. You're going to place this at the tip of the crinoline while it is relaxing on your lining, and then iron this down. Okay, so this is what it looks like after I did that. You can see how neat and nice this looks. Okay, I also went ahead to stitch it at the top close and took off the parts I will not be needed, right? So I'll bring in my piece again. That's the gathers I've already done. I'll bring that piece again, and I'm going to place my peplum on top of it like so. So you can see how I'm placing this. You're just going to place this wrong side to right side and then stitch it down. So remember the peplum is more, so you have to pleat this around the waistline. You not just stitch this around. Ensure you pleat this around at different points. So you can see how this looks like after I pleated this down. Okay, this looks so nice. I cannot wait to see the final look of this dress. It looks so beautiful. This is what it looks like after I did that. Okay, and this is my half length after I've gone ahead to stitch the neckline. I've also closed the armhole. This is what it looks like. This looks nice already. So the next we want to do is to fold in our skirt part, that's the down part, into two. Then we're going to make a notch at that point. Now this is simply for us to get the midpoint, so I just went ahead to make a notch at that end. Then I'm going to also do the same thing to my half length, fold this into two, and then make a notch also to indicate my midpoint. Then I'm going to place the both of them together, front part to front part. So ensure that the front part of your notch end is placed to the other front part of your notch end. So place them together. You can go ahead to pin them down and then sew it to the right and also to the left part of this. So I've stitched them down. This is what it looks like. Okay, this is our dress coming in gradually, looking so nice already. You can see how this looks. You can see how full the bottom of this gown looks like. All right, so the next thing I want to do is to cover this up with the lining. All right, I went ahead to cut out another piece for my lining. I actually cut out mine in form of a flare. You can decide to cut this out normal, or you can just decide to cut this as a flare. So what I'm going to do is to place this from this other end. You can see how I'm placing this. Okay, you place this the right side facing downward, stitch it down, and then flip it over to the other side. All right, to cover up the rough edges inside. So I've done that. This is what it looks like. Okay, so you can see the rough edge. By the time we close in our lining piece, it's going to look like this instead. So I'll go on later to hem the ends of the dress. So this is what it looks like. I went ahead to fix a zipper for the dress and it came out this way. So this is our dress. This came out so nice, right? This is the dress. You can see how lovely, you can see how good this looks. So like I said earlier, I'll be adding I added loops to this. That's because I wanted this to have like a different feel at the back. Okay, this is more like a touch of NASA thread at the back, so I just decided to add loops to that in order to give it a different feel. Okay, so that will go, the rope will go into our loops. I went ahead to make the bow for the back, and I'll be attaching this I'll be using a pressing button to attach this so that it can be detached if they don't want to add it to the dress, or if they want to, totally depends. So if you're here to the end of this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and let me know in the comments section how you think I did on this project. Let me know if you found this project helpful, and give this video a thumbs up. Okay, I'll really appreciate your comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.